Hello lovely people, thank you for stopping by for today's video. I want to start off by saying that what we're going to be discussing today involves Eugenia Cooney. Generally when I cover Eugenia, I try and be sensitive and mindful to the fact that she may be experiencing some mental health conditions that I am not a professional on, but I do want to bring attention to the fact that there has allegedly been a lawsuit involving her and some of her content. It's part of a much bigger topic that we're going to dive into. Before we get into that, I do want to give credit to the channel Vera Chukin, who seems to have broken this story. I did not hear about this until I started watching their video, so I will have their video linked down in my description. I really enjoyed the way that she broke things down into different chapters, and she spoke in a way that I found to be very respectful of the entire situation. Without further ado, I want to get into this Reddit post that I found, and I'm gonna try and be very careful to omit anything that has personal details such as full names and contact information, just because I don't want to get messy with this. I think it's a very, how do I put this? It's a very sensitive subject and I can't afford a lawyer. So I just want to be cautious with my wording because I don't know too much about the law. I went to school for graphic design, so I'm not a lawyer by any means, but let's get started and go over this lawsuit. Okay, so I'm gonna be looking at this case filing under a post that was made on Reddit just because it's a bit easier for me to sort through and read. It does have a trigger warning. Note, I deleted the scan of the article due to concerns about sharing an article from a work-related resource. This filing, however, is something that is publicly accessible, so I'm comfortable with sharing this. Plus, the join letter itself has the most relevant content, whereas the other filing is just legal jargon and procedural stuff. It looks like Eugenia Cooney's absence from TikTok might be explained by this recent filing from a larger personal injury lawsuit alleging TikTok and other social media websites of being addictive and detrimental to the psychological health of minors. I agree definitely that social media has for a long time been actively promoting certain content, but let's go on further. The plaintiffs in one of the many cases just filed for a motion to compel discovery related to materials regarding TikTok's business relationship with Eugenia Cooney, whose content they heavily promoted on their platform despite knowledge of her health situation. TikTok has a professional business arrangement with her as she is a paid influencer on their platform. There has been some interesting things mentioned here. It's clear Eugenia Cooney's deteriorating health was becoming too much of a liability for TikTok to have her remain as a heavily promoted influencer. Although they did invite Eugenia Cooney to their New York offices after her health scare in May. That's part of the reason why they're getting this motion, since they're not being forthcoming about their professional entanglement with Eugenia. A lot of the materials from my review of some of the other filings are sealed. But this joint letter laying out plaintiffs' argument supporting their request for more material from TikTok about Eugenia Cooney, considering they are withholding quite a lot and much of it would be damning evidence for the plaintiffs in this case. Okay, so to pretty much break down what everyone has been talking about, essentially, the biggest issue isn't just Eugenia, it's about social media as a whole. You know, TikTok knowing that there's issues and kind of just ignoring the issues. And it's really fascinating to me because I know that there have been so many people throughout the years, probably hundreds of thousands of people at this point, that have left comments, that have reported, that have signed petitions to try and, I guess, gain traction and get attention for some of the content that is being posted, especially regarding Eugenia. I know back in, I forget which year it was, but like maybe 2018, between like 2018 and 2021, when Eugenia posted her cosplay of a Kingdom Hearts character, and there were so many people that were concerned and were trying to get that content taken down because, you know, you have someone that was essentially getting paid to highlight their condition. That's something that Vera Chukin has described what's going on with Eugenia. I think that might be a very appropriate way to acknowledge what is going on with Eugenia because it's a little bit hard to say the exact condition that she is dealing with. So I'm just going to refer to it in the way that she did as simply her condition. But yeah, essentially Eugenia's condition was very prominent, and not only was Eugenia profiting from her condition, but also YouTube and TikTok and all the other platforms that she was posting on, they profited in a way as well, because they get the engagement, the clicks, the views, the likes, the reposts, and they also take a little cut. You know, when you are creating social media content and you make money, the platforms themselves get a cut of that. So to me, it was almost like this weird hush hush, like kind of shaking hands behind the curtain of, you don't say anything, I won't say anything, and we're just gonna kind of skirt away, you know, get away with this and skirt the fine lines of what's appropriate to put on the internet. And it seems like it's finally starting to catch up with them. Okay, so this portion says the plaintiff's position: TikTok refuses to supplement its discovery responses and produce documents and communications discussing 1. TikTok's relationship with Eugenia Cooney, a TikToker creator suffering from a condition, who TikTok managed, paid, and promoted. And 2. User concerns TikTok received about Ms. Cooney. These documents would complete, correct, and update TikTok's existing discovery response. To date, TikTok has produced over 300 documents referencing Ms. Cooney, its relationship with her, user complaints about her, and related harm to her users with conditions. TikTok's relationship with Ms. Cooney was also a central topic during Victoria's deposition in February of 2025. After that deposition, plaintiffs learned that Ms. Cooney collapsed during a live stream on TikTok on May 23, 2025, and had recently visited TikTok's New York office. In light of this new information, plaintiffs asked TikTok to supplement its discovery responses. TikTok refuses to do so. Accordingly, the court should order TikTok to supplement its discovery responses and allow plaintiffs to take additional deposition. Okay, so essentially what this is saying, and honestly, if it wasn't for Vera's video, a lot of this language I wouldn't have been able to, I guess, grasp what exactly was the issue here. Like I get a basis of what the issue is, but watching her video gave me a little bit more in-depth understanding of this lawsuit was filed back in February. The issue that happened with Eugenia was further proof in May, further proof of their position that, hey, you guys have been working with this content creator, you know it's been an issue, and you haven't done anything about it. And they're essentially saying, hey, we have even more evidence here that shows that you guys are very aware of what's going on. And TikTok's like, no, hey, no, it's too late. You can't have the information now. I feel like I'm doing like an explain like I'm 5, because I don't understand all the legal language and what's it called, all the legal jargon. I don't understand all of it, so I'm trying to explain it in a way that is simple for me, because it's a lot of numbers and letters and shit, and I don't know all of it, whatever. And here's some background. It says, images of Ms. Cooney are below. In TikTok's own words, Ms. Cooney is a quote-unquote controversial influencer who is widely known in the condition community for having said condition. Whoa. So TikTok must have made a statement about her, or there must have been some type of reports about her. I could imagine maybe employees at TikTok, you know, they were receiving these complaints, multiple complaints, and this might have been something, I don't know the context of this, but they were aware, and they continued to let her post. Well, now they're not, but we'll get into why they're not letting her post a little bit later. Ms. Cooney routinely posts on TikTok and has 2.8 million followers, even though Ms. Cooney is suffering from an obvious serious condition. TikTok brought her into its inner circle, managing her, paying her, and promoting her at branded events, including TikTok's live programming and live battles entitled Road to Superstar. So yeah, they were aware. And not only that, you know, we always talk about like the algorithm. I think it's a little bit different, you know, when you have programming boosting certain posts based on engagement and things like that. But when you directly invite someone to your headquarters, when you give them special perks, special access, special treatment, it seems like they were kind of using Eugenia, managing her, and promoting her in a way that's extremely unethical. And to me, it kind of just it shows that it's a soulless machine that doesn't care who gets trampled in the way of that, whether that's Eugenia herself being essentially exploited, or the young impressionable people that are being in a way spoon-fed her content. If it's road to superstar, that reminds me almost of like when a K-pop idol debuts and it's a huge thing, you know, they have managers behind them boosting them, doing promos. There's a lot of hype around that. And Eugenia, she's been around for a long time, but she really stopped posting consistently on YouTube and on Twitch, and TikTok became her main platform. And so when TikTok is like, wow, we have this huge star coming to us now, they really seem to have pushed her content and pushed her as their next big thing. Okay. Meanwhile, TikTok's trust and safety team was unaware that TikTok had hired Miss Cooney as a paid influencer. When trust and safety employees learned about the relationship, the team voiced shock. Wow, her being managed by us. Other internal documents state that Miss Cooney's account has been reported blank by various external blank partners due to how many consider her appearance to be triggering for body image and eating concerns. I don't know how many different departments there are at TikTok's headquarters, but it seems like there is a department for specifically harmful content. If they were not communicating, or there was a miscommunication somewhere along the lines of her content being promoted, I guess I can understand a little bit of her maybe slipping through the cracks and but at the same time, it's like, how could she get away with it for this long? And not only that, but be so widely promoted on TikTok. Like, anyone that's viewing her content, they would have to know, like, that it's very clear, it's very apparent, they would have to know that there's an issue going on here. So yes, sometimes things get lost in translation between different departments, but at the same time, anyone in the maybe PR or promotions or reaching out, giving sponsorships or different deals and things like that, they would have had to have known. You can't just turn a blind eye to what's clearly happening here. So a few months after the deposition, the plaintiffs learned that Cooney collapsed while live streaming on TikTok. Miss Cooney also visited TikTok's offices in New York, as seen in her TikTok video posted May 24th, 2025. Plaintiffs promptly asked TikTok to supplement its discovery responses limited to specific documents concerning Miss Cooney. TikTok has refused. So I don't know exactly how supplementing a discovery works, because if there is a deadline to submit information, but new, more crucial evidence arises, I don't know what the legal rules are for that. TikTok is they're really digging their heels into the dirt. They do not want that to be included as evidence, but that to me says more about them trying to hide what they've been doing, even though it's blatantly clear for everyone that has been watching for a long time. And then it got to a point where it was so bad that it seems like their only tactic now is just to deny that they had any part in what happened during that collapsing video. But if you have someone that's streaming on your platform for hours, overnight into the early mornings, hours on your platform, and then they suddenly collapse, maybe it's time to do some reflection and figure out what went wrong and how you guys should have intervened into this like a long time ago. Okay, so the defendant claims the plaintiff lacked good cause or diligence. Not so. So pretty much TikTok is saying, you guys are not doing a good job trying to sue us because you didn't have all the information. And the plaintiffs are saying, no, that's not true. We requested these videos on May 29th, the same day that they learned that Miss Cooney collapsed. But TikTok didn't respond for over a month. Then they sent another letter on July 8th, waiting until July 21st for a response. As such, it's the defendant's refusal to discuss this issue that has resulted in the delay. So I wonder if TikTok was just trying to pull the move of, maybe if we pretend that we didn't get our mail, maybe if we pretend that we didn't know that this happened, that we can't have this as evidence in court. But if they have proof that they sent those materials or they sent that request and TikTok denied it, or they ignored it or didn't acknowledge it, then that could be kind of messy. Okay, so yeah, this is blah 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 blah. Okay, this is all kind of boring. Plaintiffs cannot point to any support for this position as it is both nonsensical and impractical, given that the parties are now 3 months away from trial. The TikTok defendants are instead of focusing their efforts on trial preparation, as both this court and Judge Cull have instructed the parties to do so. All right, so a lot of this is kind of boring, like reading through these documents, but from what I have gathered from the video that I watched and reading this, it seems that this is all part of a larger lawsuit going on, and it's not just directly about Eugenia. It's kind of setting precedent for the future of how social media and other companies are going to be, I guess, held responsible for the content that is put out on their platforms, which, you know, I feel like at this point in time, that's kind of important because we've been seeing a lot of crazy, weird stuff. You know, we covered the AI generated deepfakes and things that are happening with seemingly no repercussions for posting that type of content. I find it disturbing. I don't think it should be allowed, but, you know, social media platforms are allowing people with different conditions to post body checks and to stream for hours until they're collapsing. And, you know, skinny talk is a thing. They are giving out some advice or tips to younger audiences, which can be damaging. And the reason I'm not saying allegedly is because I've seen it myself. This content is there, and, you know, I guess it's like, it's not a quote unquote big problem until someone gets hurt. That's at least how I think the platform is trying to treat it. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. If it's a creator with like 20,000 followers, maybe it's a little bit low key and there's not a lot of buzz around it, you know, no one's really gonna bat an eye. But when you have someone as large as Eugenia, people are definitely taking notice. Now, we can't get into the discussion of parental involvement into social media and, you know, being aware of what their kids are viewing and engaging with online. I definitely get that parents do need to be aware, and I think it's not realistic to just say, well, you're a kid, you don't have access to the internet until you're 18, just no internet whatsoever. I don't think that's very realistic. Kids are going to use computers and smartphones and tablets, and kids might stumble across content that is inappropriate, but the parents should be there. Like, I feel like it should be monitored to an extent, you know? Like, listen, I'm not a parent. I don't know how exactly I would navigate those situations, because you want your teen to, of course, have a sense of privacy, but you also want to make sure that they're safe and they're not being bullied or being a bully or watching really grotesque content or being exposed to people like Eugenia. But the thing with Eugenia, it's like she's everywhere, and especially if she's being promoted, that's where it's like, all right, TikTok needs to have some accountability. They should not be promoting this content, which it seems like she is no longer posting on TikTok. I'll be honest, when Eugenia stopped posting for a while, I was like, oh my gosh, is she like getting help? The naive optimist in me was like, oh my gosh, she's getting help, and she's gonna come back and she's gonna say like, hey guys, it's Eugenia. I've decided to make some changes in my life, and this is how I decided to seek help and seek treatment. But boy, was I wrong. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Turns out that TikTok's not letting her post because of this entire lawsuit. I don't know how long this lawsuit's gonna go on for. Some people thought maybe she was banned. But most bans, like, you know, after like 90 days, you kind of come back, you know, like a little puppy with your tail between your legs, and you're just like, you kind of start posting again, and either you address it or you just really don't talk about it and you keep it moving. But Eugenia, she's been gone for like over 100 days online, like just poof, she disappeared. Now, there have been some creepy people that have been snapping pictures of her out in public, but whatever, those people are just weird. They need to get a hobby. It just seems like TikTok and Eugenia are kind of in this weird place where they now have to just kind of wait and see what the judge says and how the judge decides to handle this. All right, so this comment makes a really good point. They say, I believe it's part of a larger complex litigation comprised of many different personal injury cases, and plaintiffs in one of these cases is seeking discovery related to Eugenia Cooney due to the way it's likely strengthens their legal argument that TikTok contributes negatively to children's psychological health, considering they were heavily promoting someone that was visibly not doing well. TikTok's reluctance to give their type of valuable discovery showed that they previously did have a business relationship with Eugenia Cooney, but they are clearly trying to sever those ties, which definitely explains her absence. Which also I kind of think is really backstabbing of TikTok. Like, for them to, I would say, essentially, allegedly exploit her, use her, promote her, and then the second that they run into trouble, they're like, oh, we don't know her that well. We're not that good of partners, even though they did a lot to boost her through the algorithm. This comment says, can I get a TLDR? I'm too stoned for this. That's kind of how I felt reading this. I'm sober, and a lot of the words, I'm just like, what are you guys talking about? What does this mean? So yeah, it says they're now trying to bury the evidence, so plaintiffs are forced to file a motion seeking this material. We got the people versus Eugenia before GTA 6. Oh my god. With all that being said, I don't really know what this is going to mean for Eugenia. I don't know what this is going to mean for social media as a whole. Now, I guess with Eugenia, I wonder, like, what is she going to do in the future? You know, financially, she seems like she lives a lifestyle that is very, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but it seems that she lives a lifestyle where she has a lot of accommodations to her preferences. So at a certain point, like, maybe she has like a substantial savings and she's just gonna be comfortable, like maybe retiring off of that. Maybe she might try and bounce to another platform. It seemed like Eugenia's mom was very much involved in her content as well. So I don't know, maybe they're just at home spending time together. I don't know. But yeah, let's see if there might be anything else. Now, I don't know if Eugenia will actually be involved like in the courtroom, but if she did, she would have to be under oath and give her side of the story. Now, that's probably a long time from here because lawsuits can go on and on and on for years. All right, so yeah, we'll see how things go with this case. I don't really know much about legal jargon, but if you do want to get an even more comprehensive breakdown, I very highly recommend that you go check out Vera the Chukin. It seems like she has quite a lot of nuggets of information, and she did a really great breakdown of this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out my merch store if you do want to support the channel. I also have memberships now available if you'd like to help out with the channel. I hope you guys are staying safe online. I hope you guys are gonna have a great and wonderful day. Stay safe out there and stay lovely.